Today we are taking a new hymn Aprisuktas. You know, Aprisukta is a style. We had Aprisukta before, no? Once, most probably, from Kanba. This is a very special style and a very interesting hymn. I would like even maybe to make some study on these hymns. I already did before, but never finished it because it's not totally clear what it does. There are 10 Aprisuktas in the Rig Veda. Not all the families of rishis have it, but major families have, yes. There are 3 Aprisuktas in the first mandala, 2 in the last, and there is Vasishtha, Vishwamitra, there is Vasushruta Atreya from 5th mandala. So, and of course Gritsamada. Gritsamada has the biggest one, but what is interesting about Aprisuktas, they have the same format. So they run through the same verses, addressing the same devatas. So if you look at the devatas, we will see that Devata Aprisukta, that's also the first one. So apri means apriya, so to say, to propitiate or to love, yeah? So to say, to bring some love and some adoration to the devatas, yeah? The sukta of love. So you could see idma or samidha Agni, the Agni which is kindled, totally kindled. Narashansa is the second devata, very interesting devata. Only in the Aprisuktas you meet it. It means like Shamsa praising Nara, praised by Nara or voiced by Naras. And Nara can be translated as the heroic power of the soul or the godheads or man, interestingly, yes, that aspect of the divine in man. So pointed or praised by the divine powers in us. Ila, interesting, is here number 3, Elita Agni. So adoration of Agni and nourishment. We will see it later. Barhis is the grass, sacrificial grass spreading, or the opening which we create for the devatas to enter into our domain. Divya Dvara, the divine doors or portals which have to be widely open. And Ushasanakta, the dawn and night, 2 mothers of Agni. These all devatas are connected to Agni, and he is functioning. Yes, and then Divya Hotagana Prachetasa, or simply Hotaro, 2 hotas, Divyao Hotaro, 2 divine summoners, who are Prathama, who are the first ones. We will read about them. First divine invokers in dual. One is from above and other is from below. We will look into it later more precisely what these 2 hotars mean. Actually, it is 2 suns, one sun above and other sun below. There are 2 energy sources, 2 divine presences. One is above, uninvolved yet, and other is involved below. Or let us say, one is that who is carrying on his shoulders all the supermind involved, or Shiva, Rudra, power, and the other is Vishnu, who is uninvolved, overhead. Yeah? So these 2 suns, or 2 hotars, who are calling to each other and create the manifestation. Then Tisro Devyah, Devis, 3 goddesses, 3 rivers. And these are Saraswati and Bharati, or Mahi. Sri Aurobindo started all his studies of the Veda from these three rivers. He describes this somewhere, that he saw written these names of these three rivers, and he understood what they do. And then he looked into the hymns and he found the meaning of the hymns, finally, that meaning which he was looking for. Tvashta, the creator of forms, Vanaspati, the lord of the delight, and then Svaha Kriti, creating Svaha at the end. So this is the typical order of Aprisukta. Very unusual but deeply meaningful, which has to be still discovered. I hope it's not totally new thing for you. Is it new totally? Everything is new? Every word? No, sorry, then too many new words. So let's go slow then. Let's start with the mantra. Om Vang me manasi pratisthita mano me vachi pratishthitam avirabirma edhi vedasyama ani sthaha shrutam me ma prahasihi anena dhitena horatran samdadhami ritam vadishyami satyam vadishyami tanmamavatu tadvaktaramavatu avatu mam avatu vaktaram avatu vaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samidho Agni nihitach prithiviyam pratyang vishvani bhuvanani asthat hota pavakach pradivach sumedhach devo devan yajato agnir arhan. The fire that was set inward in the earth is kindled and has arisen fronting all the worlds. So beautiful, yes. He has arisen, the purifying flame, the priest of the called, the wise of understanding, the ancient of days. Today let the fire, in the fullness of his powers, a god to the gods, do sacrifice. The ancient of days. Sri Aurobindo finds his way of saying. It's actually very unusual even for English. Yeah? He creates new possibilities for connecting words. I will be more precise to the words. Fully kindled Agni was established inside the earth. Facing all the worlds, he stood firm. The summoner of the gods, the purifier of all impurities, perfect in wisdom, who moves forward the light of the days. God Agni, mighty, should sacrifice the gods. Now I will be using this all the time, not to the gods, notice, but sacrifice the gods, as it is used in Sanskrit. We translate it like this to the gods because we don't want to confuse people. Yeah, we sacrifice always to the gods something, offering or whatever we want to sacrifice to them. We give away something we like to the gods, and that's what we consider to be sacrifice. Yeah. But truly speaking, the Vedic sacrifice is very different. Agni sacrifices here the gods. It's a constant formula in the Veda. Agni brings the gods down, and that is the sacrifice of the gods. He is not sacrificing to the gods, he is bringing them down into the lower darker hemisphere, and that is for them a huge sacrifice to come down. So he, by their presence, makes our life or our lower hemisphere, darker hemisphere, more sacred, illumined by their presence. That's what he does. So that's why Devan Yajatu, sacrifice the gods, or God. Interestingly, God should sacrifice the gods. This repetition is also chosen consciously. Devo Devan Yajatu. Yeah? Agnir Arhan. So mighty or capable or noble Agni should sacrifice Yajatu, the gods. Who is the god? So he has the right to sacrifice the gods because he is the god. He is the sacrificial flame. It always starts, Aprisuktas always starts with word samidhah, totally kindled, Agni, nihitach, established within, prithivyam, within the earth. Pratyang, kind of fronting, Vishwani Bhuvanani, all the worlds. Asthat, he stood. Hota, the invoker or the summoner of the gods. Pavaka, purifier. Pradivach, the ancient of days. Sumedhach, perfect in knowledge. Devach, the god. Devan, the gods Yajatu should sacrifice. Agnih Arhan. Narashamsach pratidhamani anjan tisrodivach pratimahna suarchich. Grita prushamanasa havyam undan murdhan yajnasya samanaktu devan. Fire who voices the Godhead. Interesting choice of translation, Narashamsach. Fire who voices the Godhead. Shines, revealing the planes, each and each. High of ray he reveals. Each and each, the triple heavens, by his greatness. Let him flood the oblation with the mind that diffuses the light and manifests the gods on the head of the sacrifice. Let him flood the oblation with the mind that diffuses the light. Let him flood the oblation with the mind that diffuses the light and manifest the gods on the head of the sacrifice. I will be more literal. Praised by voicing the Godheads, or praised by or voicing the Godheads, either or, anointing all the planes of consciousness, making them sacred, as it were. reveals the triple heaven by his greatness. So he is anointing all the planes of consciousness, and by that reveals the triple heaven by his greatness. With clarity and luminosity of his mind, he anoints the offering. May he totally anoint the gods, the leader of the sacrifice. I take Murdan as the leader. Sri Aurobindo takes it as the locative on the top of the sacrifice, or at the head of the sacrifice. I take it as the leader of the sacrifice and as the head of the sacrifice, the head of this transformation, the leader to the transformation. So let us go one word by word. Narasham sah prati dhamani anjan. All the dhamani, all the establishments, all the planes. He prati anjan. He anoints, or he makes sacred, prepares to be offered, puts oil on them. You know, when they do this abhisheka of the king, so they also sprinkle the water. The same actually in a Christian tradition. They sprinkle the holy waters, yes, when they anoint you to the kingdom. So you are being consecrated. This is the word I was looking for. So he consecrates all the planes of consciousness. He who is Narashansach. Interesting word. Many scholars do not translate it because it's met only here in the Aprisuktas, and it consists of two parts, Nara and Shamsa. Yeah, Shams is to point out or to praise, and Nara is can be the gods, godheads, the heroic souls of men, powers of the soul, and also men. All these meanings. Yeah. So it could be praised by men or praised by gods, or Sri Aurobindo gives a very interesting interpretation, who voices the Godhead, who is constantly voicing the Godhead, means invoking, praising the Godhead, praising the divine in all the forms, looking for the divine. It's Agni's major function, yes, to find the divine in every form. And that's why he burns them, yeah, until he finds that the divine part which is not perishing. So he is destroying everything, finding nothing to be not perished. Yeah? It's as long as we are not fully divine, yes. When we will be fully divine, there will be nothing to burn. We will be going into the fire and coming out of the fire without any injuries. So Narashansah Pratidhamani Anjan, Sri Aurobindo also translates revealing the planes, not consecrating, but anja. You know this word anjana most probably is something which you put into the eye to make it better see. So it's kind of clarifying all the planes. That's what Sri Aurobindo shines, revealing the planes, each and each, one by one. Yeah? High of ray he reveals, Suarchich, his ray is perfect, each and each. Prati, that's how he most probably takes it. Prati, each and each. The triple heavens by his greatness. Tisro Dibach. Mahana, by his Mahan, by his greatness. Let him flood the oblation with the mind that diffuses the light. Grita Prusha Manasa Undan. Ahavyam Undan. Let him flood, undan, the oblation, havyam, with the mind, manasa, that diffuses the light, garita prusha. I just identify words for you to see, because you can recognize the roots also. And manifest the gods. Samanaktu Devan. Again, the same Anj root is used. Samanaktu, and totally consecrate the gods, or totally reveal the gods. I leave totally annoyed in the gods. Prepare them for kingdom, to be kings. Reveal their properties, their true beings in this manifestation. This is what Narashansah doing. Narashansah, who voices the Godhead. He is the will of the divine, of the supreme. He voices his will. Ilita Agni Manasano Arhan Devan Yakshi Manushat Purva Adya Saavaha Marutam Shardha Achyodham Indram Naro Barhishadam Yajadhvam. O fire, aspired to by our mind. O fire, aspired to by our mind, putting forth today thy power, do sacrifice to the gods. O thou who wast of old, before aught that is human, before anything that was human, let us say that way, bring to us the unfallen host of the life gods, and you, O powers, O life gods, Maruts, sacrifice to Indra, where he sits on these at our altar. Ilita, this word we meet in the first line of the first hymn, yeah? Agnimile, Purohitam. So Id is an root which means to adore. Sri Aurobindo translates it, seek with adoration. It's much more precise because this E has movement in it. And we have many words of this kind. First root is E, to go. Yeah? Iha, ihate, to aspire, to seek, ichati, to want. So all these words are kindred roots. Ish, yeah. So ilita, sought with adoration, or aspired to, manasanach, by our mind, or Agni, Agne. Interestingly, how he translates Arhan, or fire, aspired to by our mind, putting forth today thy power, putting forth today thy power, do sacrifice to the gods. Yakshi Devan, sacrifice the gods. Arhan, putting forth today. Arhan Adya, today. O thou who wast of old, before aught that is human, this is Manushat Purvach. O you, Purvach, the first one, the original one, the old one, Manushat, before anything human. Even before mind was activated in manifestation, you were there before that. You were already at work. Yeah. So what to say about when mind is involved? You are already here much more at work. So we acknowledge your original movement before human beings were activated in this manifestation. Sa avaha, that one, such one, bring here Marutam Shardhach, the host of Maruts, the troops of Maruts, the armies of Maruts. Indram Narach, and they, the Narach, the divine beings, Barhishadam Indram Yajadhavam, they should sacrifice Indra seated at the vastness which we created within ourselves. We spoke about Barhis before. Barhis is the sacrificial grass, kusha grass, which they spread around the altar, and they invite gods to sit. Sit here Indra, sit here Varuna, one by one. So the hierarchy of the gods, everybody sits in a particular order. But Barhis is from root brich, to widen, to make vast, to vacate the space. Before we do the sacrifice, we have to prepare our temple. We have to clean it up. We have to remove unnecessary things. Yes, we have to create the space, widen the scope where these godheads can come in and partake of our offering. If we don't do that, how could we invite them at all? We will be preoccupied with our things, clogged, full of our own stuff. So they would not come into such a being who is full of his own things. They have nothing to do there. We need to prepare for them a space. So this idea of Barhis is actually making the space holy for the godheads. We prepare, we vacate in us, we clean ourselves from within. It's a very important element of the hymns. We meet it all the time, Barhis. And it's so seated at Barhis, seated in our prepared space, Indra, they, the godheads, the Maruts, should sacrifice Yajadhavam. And there is a unique relation between Maruts and Indra. We spoke about this before, I guess. I don't remember totally, but you remember most probably. Did we speak about their relations and how they go together, Maruts and Indra, and why they are so important? Indra is the godhead from above. He represents Vishnu's action with the Vajra. It's that intuitive mind which cleaves the darkness from above and reaches to fire from below. And when they come together, the sacrifice is done. So Indra representing Vishnu coming down. And down in the lower hemisphere, there are Maruts. Maruts who were produced by Diti, by the twin sister of Aditi, or dividing consciousness. She wanted to create a hero who would kill Indra, because Indra destroyed her other asuras, yes? Vritra was killed, and so on. So she wanted him to be killed. So she was concentrating and bringing to birth for 1,000 years. She was keeping holy this great hero who would kill Indra. And Indra became alarmed and very frightened that this hero will come into being. So he secretly, in the moment when she was not conscious, he entered into her womb and cut the embryo into 33 pieces, yes? Sometimes 49, 33 different numbers are given. And these 33 pieces were born as Maruts. So there was no one hero, but were 33 heroes. But since he entered into her womb and shaped those beings, he became their father. He was considered to be their father from that time on. So when they were born, they started to align with him, and instead of fighting with him, they became his troops. So many times in the Veda they call Indra Marutvan, the one who leads the Maruts, the leader of Maruts. And in one of the hymns to Maruts, it is said that they are all shining, they are spears, they have spears. They are Brahmins, warriors. Can you imagine Brahmin warriors who speak the word as their weapons? And they are the energies of our mental being who are seeking the truth. And the light they possess is the light of the sun, the light of Indra's Vajra. So the secret of Maruts is that they operate by the light of Indra in the lower hemisphere. So here it is said, bring the Maruts, and may they, the Godhead's Maruts, sacrifice here Indra, seated at our vastness. Now it makes more sense. They will bring him into action, Indra. They will activate Indra through their activities. Activate his light. I will take one more and we will stop here. Again, Barhis. This Barhis is a kind of central concept of sacrifice. Deva Barhih Vardhamanam Suviram Stirnam Raye Subharam Vedi Asyam Gritena Aktam Vasavach Siddhata Idam Vishvedeva Aditya Yajniyasach Vishvedeva Aditya Yajniyasach Gritena Aktam Vasavach Siddhata Edam, one extra syllable. Siddhata Edam. All right, the Godhead, O Godhead, strewn is the seat of this altar, the hero-guarded seat that ever grows, the seat well packed for the riches, anointed with the light. O all gods, sit on this altar seat, sons of the invisible, indivisible Mother, Princess of the treasure, Kings of sacrifice. Shubhendu translated all these names, Adityas, Vishvedevas, and Vasavach, as sons of indivisible Mother, Princess of treasure, Vasavach, and Kings of sacrifice, Yajniyasach. Or all gods, Vishvedeva. He gave his own translations. It's quite interesting. Though these are the categories of the gods, they are not translated. O God, Deva, O vastness, Barhich, growing for the gods to take their seat at this altar. Can you imagine all this? I'm translating for one word, Barhis. Barhis Vardhamanam, for two words. Of vastness growing for the gods to take their seat at the altar. Interestingly, Barhis, the grass, the sacrificial grass, is growing. Vardhamana. How it can grow? It's actually a cut grass, It's plucked out grass. When they put grass, it's not actually growing grass. So, but in this hymn, they say Barhis Vardhamanam, or growing grass, Suviram, full of perfect power of the hero, Stirnam, spread for the Raye, for the wealth, Subharam, holding perfectly Devi Asyam at this altar. So it's a kind of an personality or entity of that space around the altar where the Godheads have to sit. It's a living being. Yeah? It can grow, it can diminish, it can increase, it can disappear. So it is needed. The space around the altar is needed, has to be prepared. Gritena actam, and by grita, with the clarity of the transformed and luminous mind, anointed. This is how I translate. So, anointed with the light, Sri Aurobindo says, with the light with capital L. This is Garita. He has the whole article on Garita, what it means and why it has that meaning. He says that this is the mentality which is already transformed by the Spirit. And it becomes luminous, warm, full of substance. Yeah? And it can feed the flame. It's like when we put ghee into the flame, flame is growing. So this is the symbol. When we put the purified and transformed mentality, mind, as a substance into the fire, it will grow immensely. So Gritena Actam, he is purified or clarified or anointed or made visible with Grita. Yeah? Idam, this Barhis. This Barhis is anointed or clarified with Grita, or you put on the Barhis the ghee all over around the fire. Vasavach Sidata, the vasos should sit around. Vishvedevach also, and Adityas, who are worthy of sacrifice. Or, as Sri Aurobindo translates, who are kings of the sacrifice. I like it much more. Usually the translation is worthy of sacrifice, but why not kings of the sacrifice? Yajniyasach, those who deserve the sacrifice, who deserve their presence at the transformation of the lower being. They are to be there. They are to reveal the divine properties in the lower hemisphere. So we have three types of Godheads here: Vasavach, Vishvedevach, and Adityas. It's amazing because the order is a proper. Vasus are those who are involved in manifestation. We spoke about this, from root vas, to shine and to dwell and to wear this manifestation. Isha vasyam idam sarvam, yes. All this is to be illumined by the Lord, or worn as the garment by the Lord, or dwelled within. All this is for habitation. So Sri Aurobindo translates Vasu as the luminous inhabitant or in the substance. Luminous dweller in the substance. So it's interesting, luminous, dweller, and substance. He puts three together meanings into one word. So the Vasus are the Godheads who are involved in the sacrifice. Totally involved. Involved by Agni. Agni is the major Vasu. He brings them down and makes them work there. Yeah? So all the Godheads, even Adityas, will be called Vasus, Indra Vasu, everyone Vasu, when they are involved in the sacrifice. Then Vishvedevach is another term, the universal Godheads, or the all gods. And these are the interesting. There are universal Godheads who are not involved, who are involved in universal actions, but not in our sacrificial action. They are involved elsewhere to support the universe, but and they are present here also because they are working here, but not in our action of the sacrifice, not what we want them to do. When Vishvadevas come to us to do the sacrifice, they become Vasus. So I'm saying Vasus are more involved, Vishvadevas are more universal Godheads who sustain the cosmos, and Adityas are transcendental Godheads. So we have three levels of Godheads here: Vasus, Vishvadeva, and Adityas. I have the whole article written on this, on these three classes of the gods, how they relate, and why and how Adityas could be called Vasus, and Vishvadevas could be called Vasus, and how the Vishvadevas, hymns to Vishvadevas, the Adityas are mentioned, because when Adityas, transcendental Godheads, are acting in the universe, they become Vishvadevas. So these are the categories of functional. They are telling us what the divine powers are doing. Yes? Vasus are involved, Vishvadevas are supporting cosmos, and Adityas are the functions or sons of Aditi, the Divine Mother. All right, I will stop here for today. If you have any questions or remarks, so please go ahead. I know it's an overload, always so many words, but I see only...
Vladimir?
Yeah.
Would it be possible to forward that article?
Yes, sure.
Could you do that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. I hope it will not confuse you even more, because...
I'm confused now, so it can only help.
It won't be worse than now. Nothing can be worse. Already it's done.
Also, Vladimir, actually the previous hymn, I think you have not sent.
Oh, yeah, I will do, definitely.
Yeah, please, thank you.
And, well, I guess I feel the overload in the head. But it's a pleasant overload. For me, at least. For you, it may be a headache.
Vladimir, I had a quick question. The Maruts are also powers of thought? I mean, they are thought?
Yeah, they are mental energies. Mental energies who are seeking the truth. And they will
because
decide.
he talks about, yes.
They can go anywhere. Yeah? They can go down, up, in the vastness. They are not afraid to go anywhere and conquer anyone. Yeah? They are kind of unfolding the truth in everything. So they can go into the inconscient and discover the truth there.
Thank you.
Oh, somebody wrote something. My name,
Nidhi.
my son's names are Vasu and Kusha. Interesting. Vasu, such a name.
And Kusha is the grass, no? That is spread. That's so nice. Meaningful names.
Right, absolutely. But you can see how Rig Veda is interested, Vedic rishis are interested in the transformation of our being most of all. Yeah? There's no other issue. There's no going anywhere. There's no running away to heaven or something, or talking about just only this. Come here, do the job, come and sit around the altar. Let's do the transformation, the sacrifice. Let's sacrifice Indra, let's sacrifice Godheads, let's sacrifice all of them here. May all of them come down here and do their work and change our consciousness.
Why does he call the seat the hero-guarded seat? Hero-guarded seat that ever grows, the seat well packed for the riches.
Vedi, the altar. Let me check where it is, because I may. It is in the last one?
It is in this one, fourth one.
Okay.
Yes, the last one we just read. Why does he call
the altar seat? Yes.
Yes. Why does he call it hero guarded?
Hero guarded is Narach. Yeah. The gods sit on the altar seat, invisible mother and treasure, something. The hero guarded seat. Suviram Vedi. Yeah? The Vedi, the altar is, that's what he thinks most probably, that it is with the perfectly heroic, or you see, the problem of English that we can use either adjectives or nouns. Yes, we cannot substantives. We do not mix substantives and adjectives, truly speaking. In Sanskrit, suvira can be adjective or can be noun. Yes, can be perfect hero or can be perfectly heroic. Yeah? So perfectly heroic Vedi means what Sri Aurobindo tries to tell us, the hero-guarded seat. So to say, you cannot say that the altar can be heroic. Yes, that's why. So you have to attach the hero as the one who guards the seat. Then, in the mind of the English speaking, it makes sense. Yes, and not a heroic seat of altar. Yeah, because then you have to think deeper. What does it mean, a heroic seat of altar, of that hero strength or power, of the heroic power seat, of the powerful seat which is only for heroes, because transformation, it's like that, where the metal is forged, is the forge, the oven forge in which everything is melted and recaptured in a new form, in the diviner form. Yes, it's a transformation which is very painful and requires a lot of heroism to even to decide to agree to do this, or to not to be afraid to be reshaped and transformed. Transformation is painful for the settled being. Yes, we all want to preserve ourselves as we are, and now we have to give up everything, but everything, to some another form with so much pain to undergo, to change. So it requires that heroism, or that higher heroism, of Mahakali, power. And this is Vira. Yeah? And so to explain all this, what I'm trying to explain is very difficult in one translation.
No, I got it. I understood what you were saying. I understood, got the picture.
Yeah, in Sanskrit it is visible and felt. Once you know Sanskrit, yes, because you know that adjectives and nouns are actually very closely related. There is no big difference between them. Satya is true and Satya is truth, both in Sanskrit.
Thank you.
And it is, we need to dive deeper into the language, then we would feel it, yeah? And we have to read it many times. Why this way? Deva, Barhich. These are vocatives. Oh God. Some even translate, or divine Barhis, or divine vastness, yes? Growing and full of heroic strength, yeah? Growing vastness of heroic strength, removing all those things which dear to us, and dear relatively. Interestingly, very, because Vedi is nominative and Barhis is actually, it's amazing. We, from the point of view of grammar, there's much to be discovered, because these relations, how Rishi thinks. You know? We don't do this. We just do translation and try to figure out the meanings of the words and Godheads. But if you start kind of doing this exercise, trying to figure out why Rishi chooses this way to say, it's like with his breath, it's like with his articulation, why this word first and that was next, and what their relations, and he makes it very different. It's like a tapestry of words which builds the particular constellation through which you could kind of glimpse of some truth or presence. And the words are the same all the time. We notice this, yes? Rishis do not deviate from the format of the Godheads, of the topics. They are staying on the topic. Sri Aurobindo says somewhere that Rig Veda looks like very practical, utilitarian even, he says, but spiritual utilitarian. So rishis do not deviate from the topic. They don't go into the fancy poetic, inspiration, imagination. They don't do that excessive overload with images. They're staying on the topic, because that is much more important. It generates the power, the spiritual power which they need for the transformation. Their purpose is utilitarian, transformation of our being. It's not the poetry, actually, per se.
Even the number of words are not very high. It's not like a large vocabulary of words. We have a limited number of words, right, Sadhima?
Well, yeah, much richer than Sanskrit, than classical Sanskrit, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I was showing you the from 28 hymns what I made, the selection of adjectives for Agni, yes, from
Yes, I've got that.
a long list. So if you look into it, you will see that many words are met only in this hymn. In this hymn, there are several words which are met only here. So each hymn has some words which are met only there. So it is quite rich in the creation of the words. It looks like very simple, sometimes even simplified Sanskrit, yeah? Like this, Deva, Barhi, Vardhavanam, Suviram. Every word is clear from classical point of view. Yeah? Stirnam, Raye, every word, Subharam, Vedi, Asyam, every classical word. Yeah? There is nothing, no Vedic word in this verse. But in other verses, you will meet some new word suddenly. Aprisuktas are quite easy, actually. They are closer to classical Sanskrit. This is the soma, the delight, which is left for us from the past to enjoy, to the sap of truth, which we cannot digest because it is too dense, too luminous, too substantial for our stomach. But nevertheless, slowly, step by step, we are staying with it and trying to accumulate ourselves with it, or accommodate ourselves with this new way of thinking, or the ancient way of thinking. For me, it's a delight. It's a sheer delight. Today I was sitting with this hymn and I was thinking, what a blessing. We need Sanskrit. It's not enough not to have Sanskrit. I can see that if you have Sanskrit, you would be beaming with happiness with me together.
Maybe I will join on 6. I'm
Yeah,
thinking
it will be
seriously.
lovely.
I'm thinking seriously.
Well, what else you should do? Life is so limited with doings. And what? And what then? So at least some glimpse of because Sanskrit is not the language, it's the knowledge. Sanskrit is the knowledge. Yeah? We just didn't get it yet. We apply it in our ordinary, vulgar sense, And even nowadays when people speak Sanskrit, though it sounds Sanskrit, but they put it to use of everyday life. Yeah? And that is very different. Even though it is Sanskrit, it's not the same.
Like Tvam Kutra Gachati.
Yeah, Tvam Kutra Gachasi is very good, but that is okay. I myself spoke Sanskrit and attended all Sanskrita Bharati's shibiras and enjoyed it tremendously. Yeah, when you start thinking in Sanskrit, writing in Sanskrit, it is very useful. And you have to be modern. I'm not saying you shouldn't be, but I want to say that we bring our own syntactic formations. Don't worry, be happy, we bring into Sanskrit, and that is, it's very different thing, different way of thinking, viewing the world. We could take Ramayana and learn from Ramayana Sanskrit. This is the best Sanskrit you can have. Ramayana Sanskrit, Valmiki's. Very simple and so powerful.
So the Ramayana in Sanskrit, you're saying. Get the book of Ramayana in Sanskrit.
Right.
Not in Hindi.
No, Hindi, I don't know Ramayana in Hindi. Do we have Ramayana in Hindi? No. Tulsidas we have, yes. It's this kind of, Prakrit. But Ramayana, Valmiki is the Adi Kavi. Sri Aurobindo puts Valmiki on the top of the ladder of all the poets. Valmiki is first. Vyasa is second.
Interesting.
And then we have two more. We have Homer on his top ladder, and Shakespeare. Interesting. Yeah? Valmiki, Vyasa, Homer, and Shakespeare is the top of the ladder according to Sri Aurobindo of the poets. And then the second level, Kalidasa, and there are many, Goethe, and so on. But the first, Valmiki, and I understand why. You can't imagine how simple and how beautiful Ramayana is. If you read in Sanskrit, we may come to it after our Sanskrit grammar to read Ramayana. Mahabharata is different. It is, it's more sophisticated, Vyasa was very sophisticated. He tried to make it difficult. But Valmiki, just like a honey, comes straight into you. It purifies. It's like a Ganga river. It really makes you alive and pure. Great. Okay, I will stop here and close with the mantra. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.